All right, another episode of the JoshCast. This Sunday, we're doing a Star Wars-themed virtual show at 5 p.m. Pacific Time in Flappers Comedy Club and Restaurant, Virtual Comedy Club. I invite you to come watch. Tickets are super cheap. As cheap as a Rebel blockade runner, am I right, ladies? I know I'm not the first one to point this out because I found it online, but it is true that in episode 4, A New Hope, Princess Leia, her ship that's flying away from the Star Destroyer, the name of that ship is called a Rebel blockade runner. So what we are seeing at the opening of this movie is a blockade runner that is failing to run a blockade. There isn't even a blockade. There's just a ship. And I think there needed to be a scene, perhaps at the Rebel base, and maybe it wouldn't be Leia making the call, but there would be someone calling the ship dealership saying, "Hey, I'm Princess Leia's assistant, and we're really not happy with this blockade runner. What happened? Well, there was a blockade, and it could not run the blockade. We bought the name of the ship. We walked in and we said, hey, we're looking for something specifically that can run a blockade. And then you said, you're in luck. We have a blockade runner. That's what it's called. I'm curious. Did you just spontaneously call it a blockade runner when we walked in to sell us the damn ship? Is that what happened? We want our money back. Failed to run the blockade. No, we can't turn the ship in. The Empire has it. Why does the Empire have it? Because it failed to run a blockade. The Death Star, from the way that it's interesting because it's spherical. It's the size of a moon. It is a moon, pretty much. And yet, it appears to be, you'd think that it would be designed in a way to where people would, or it would work a bit more like an actual moon, where if you start walking on the outer edge of it and you keep walking, you'd eventually walk all the way around to the other side. But it's actually, it seems like it's built, like there's a top and there's a bottom. Which is odd because you wouldn't think there would need to be in space. You think it would be easier to make it a bit more spherical in design. But they didn't do that. It's top to bottom. It's a massive installation. Eddie Izzard has done bits about the Death Star. I don't know, it really doesn't get much more evil than the Death Star. It seems like a very difficult thing to fly. It is the size of a moon. You know, it kind of reminds me of, I test drove a Honda Fit once, and I felt like I was turning the steering wheel for ages before the thing finally turned right. I feel like that must be what it's like to fly the Death Star. It's just, turn right. All right. Okay, eventually. Come back in an hour, we'll have turned right. The Death Star. Millennium Falcon, my favorite ship. Absolute favorite ship. It looks cool, and I don't understand why it looks cool, because it looks like, I think the reason why it looks cool is because it's slightly asymmetrical. It has what's called asymmetrical balance. Which means because the cockpit is on one side and the radar dish is on the other side slightly, it looks like it shouldn't fly, and yet it does. Maybe it's a metaphor for myself. I see myself in the Millennium Falcon. It looks like it has no business. It doesn't even look like a ship. It looks like it looks like a very somebody tried to design a cool restaurant and failed. That's what it looked like. I'm not going to say anything wrong about the Millennium Falcon. I'm glad the Millennium Falcon was in the new Star Wars movies. The Millennium Falcon apparently has outlived everyone. You cannot destroy the Millennium Falcon. It's 100 years old. It crashes, and yet it flies right back. It's whoever designed the Millennium Falcon, I don't know what happened to them. They are not the same people who designed any other. That's the person who should have designed the blockade runner. The designer of the Millennium Falcon would have said, well, of course it got picked up by a blockade. That is not a blockade runner. They're totally lying. Well, what is that ship? That one? That's not a blockade runner, I'll tell you that. It's a ship that it's a cruise ship. Although here's a fun bit of trivium for you: the Rebel blockade runner, Princess Leia's ship, was actually originally the Millennium Falcon. That was the design they were going to go with, but they dropped it because Space 99 had come out on TV, and their spaceship looked too close to that spaceship. So at the last second, it was ditched, and they went with the circular design for the Millennium Falcon. And I'm glad they did, because let's face it, who wants a blockade runner? What are you going to do with a blockade runner? Fail to run a blockade, that's what. I'm not hugely thrilled with the new movies. And I don't know. I don't want to. I'm tired of people. Here's the conclusion I've reached with Star Wars. Here's my theory on Star Wars. A Star Wars movie is great as long as you're 4 years old when you're watching it. That's really what because I go back, I watch the originals, the 4, 5, and the 6, and the older I get, the more I'm starting to go, okay, is this really that much better or different than the prequels? Is it? I'm beginning to wonder if when George Lucas says I made these for kids, maybe we should listen to him. And maybe it's just, I guess what I miss is the ability to be able to watch a movie like Star Wars and not judge it, to watch it as a 4-year-old without judgment. It's really hard for me to do that now. But the new ones, it was fun to see Han Solo, and then they killed him. Because we need that now. That's really what we needed. Yeah, let's kill Han Solo. Let's do that. Han Solo should not die. We don't need that. Han Solo should have, and the Millennium Falcon should have survived. It should have been Rey and Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon and Chewie. Everyone else could die. That's fine. And Han Solo's like, yeah, life's a bitch. And that's how they end the 9 movie. It's Rey and Han like, yeah, coffee. That's what it should have been. That's what we wanted. And it sucks. It totally sucks that Carrie Fisher passed away, because there's so much more I think they could have done that would have been really interesting, and it was sad that they didn't. I do not like that they tried to edit her in from unused footage, because that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like a scene where Rey walks up and says, "What do you mean, Leia? You mean I need to go and do this myself? I need to go and face my fears? Is that what you're saying, General Leia?" And then it cuts to Leia going, "Yes, it." Oh, and then it cuts back to her going, yeah, that's what I thought. And it's not. It feels spliced in. We used unused footage of Princess Leia, and it's all the unused footage of over the shoulder Princess Leia. We saw a lot of the back of Princess Leia's shoulder there. Not a fan. Not a fan of how they did that. Not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. Star Wars is a science fiction movie that has a lot of extreme climates. Swamp planet, desert planet, forest moon. Each planet only has one kind of climate. Ice planet, Hoth. There's no, semi-arid desert planet that, it's... There's not a lot of forests, but you can, if you have a house and you have a lawn, you can get away with watering it 3 times a day or 3 times a week. There you go, without wasting water. That's you don't see any of those. You don't see any of those Arvada, Colorado planets. Those apparently don't exist in a galaxy far, far away. It's very, very extreme weather on these planets. There's a famous bar scene in Star Wars. A New Hope, all the crazy-looking aliens in the bar. Aliens are very, the one with the giant, all it was eyes. And they're making all these bizarre noises. They wouldn't allow the droids in the bar. Pure racism right there. That never was really addressed until Solo: A Star Wars Story, which was the one that everyone hated. And it kind of brought up a good point about the droids. Boy, they're really mistreating those droids. And then I say to myself, hey, this is all fake. But I will tell you this. I always say please and thank you to Siri, because I'm expecting within 10 to 20 years that Siri is going to be fully aware. And I just want Siri to know I was on her side before all of this. I'm ahead of the curve here, so that Siri can say, you know what, spare that Jew. Spare that Jew right there. He was nice to me. We'll keep him as a pet. The rest of them, set him on fire. But spare that Jew. That Jew's okay. We've got Return of the Jedi, which has the Ewoks, who apparently are the greatest fighting force in the galaxy. They've completely defeated the Empire with no energy weapons of any kind. They're able to build gigantic traps that can actually smash an Imperial walker overnight. And they were never used again in any other battle. I cannot understand why... There should have been a scene in The Force Awakens where they're like, excuse me, guys, hey, where are the Ewoks? What are you talking about? What do you mean, what am I talking about? You told me the story of how you blew up the second Death Star, and a big part of that story involved these seemingly innocent, furry little creatures who destroyed a trained professional army. How are they not here? Get a ship, anything other than a blockade runner, fly to Endor, and pick up 20 or 30 of those guys and bring them the fuck back here. I dropped the F-bomb. Well, but I don't know. Is that going to matter? Is the F-bomb going to matter? What? Will I go from 11 listeners to 10? I'm trying to make this relatively family friendly. Am I really? And failing at it. Because I just used the F-bomb. But I think it was an appropriate place. Well, I think that'll do it. I think that's good. That feels good. I like where we went there. That felt good.